Hello and welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. And today we are talking about The Batman Part 2. The Batman Part 2 is a movie that has been in development basically since, the day that The Batman came out in 2022. And in that time, of course, Matt Reeves put out that deleted scene with Barry Keoghan playing this universe's version of Joker. And well, this version of Joker it's certainly very visceral to look at. I'm sure if you saw the thumbnail for this video, you saw a glimpse at it. If you haven't seen the scene yet, I mean, it's online. Go check it out. It's worth a look. Um, the question becomes whether that scene is actually canon or not to the universe that it's meant to be a part of, because Barry Keoghan was recently asked, and he mentioned that, yeah, I mean, it looks like he's coming back possibly for the Batman Part 2. So, and the internet just kind of went crazy with that, as the internet does. So what we want to do is we want to today just kind of look at the article in Vanity Fair, look at exactly what was said, and then kind of provide some context, clear up any confusion potentially, and then let's try to figure out if Barry Keoghan was actually brought back as the Joker. I mean, hey, for all we know, it was a deleted scene after all. It's unlikely that they're gonna just say, "Oh, we're gonna cast another actor as the Joker," especially now that they wouldn't have put the deleted scene out in the world if they had any doubts about him playing the Joker, but it still doesn't mean that he's guaranteed to be in the movie. So we're gonna talk about that, and whether Barry Keoghan should be or will be in the Batman Part 2. And I'm sure we'll go in a few other directions as we usually do. So to do all that and so much more, of course, as always, today I've got with me John. How are you doing today?
Really, really intrigued with this article. I will definitely tell you that. So a friend of mine posted a picture screenshot, be like, "Oh, Barry Keoghan is definitely going to be in Batman 2 Part 2." I'm like, "Okay, that's." I'm like, "Well, we definitely have to talk about this." So I was doing some research on it, and the context of the article was simply just an interview with Barry Keoghan. It was just him giving an interview, just the state of his career right now, being in Saltburn, which was received, I believe, a lot of positive reviews, a lot of critical buzz and that kind of thing. So it was just like, oh, the state of his career right now. So he was doing that, and most of the article is just about uh his career at this point, well, the idea of Saltburn, and getting fame overnight. That's essentially what the article is.
Yeah,
Now,
I do love the
towards
headline.
the end, yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, so it's very, very general, but considering how big that character is, how big the Joker is in reliance to Batman, and the fact we haven't heard a thing about the Batman outside of rumblings and tumblings with the like Jeffrey Wright saying he hasn't gotten a script yet, and that's pretty much it, and we only have a release date. So, when in the coming months that might change, who knows? So, that's general context. So, what we got in terms of any relation in terms of the Batman Part 2 is the second to last question that the interviewer asks. He or she says, "Looking ahead, you've got the miniseries Masters of the Air, and you're also," and confidently says, "and you're also playing the Joker in DC's The Batman 2." But then asks an actual question: "What do you want your career to look like going forward?" I'm not going to say the entire quote because I don't want to bore it, and you could just look at the article for yourself, like on screen, or uh, go read it on
Yeah,
your own
it's a
time.
good
But
article. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely
it's
worth
very
the read.
intriguing. I He has a lot of promise. The man is so very talented. Whether it be Batman Part 2 or not, I'm excited for what he has to offer. I think he has a very like relatable story of like how he got into acting, and what he's shown us is severely talented guy. So what we got is pretty much just the interviewer saying, "Oh, hey, you're going to be in the Batman." But literally, if you look at the question, even just skimming it, he doesn't even mention Joker at all. He
Not in
doesn't
his
mention
answer at all.
Batman.
Yeah.
He doesn't mention Joker. He all the basic gist is that I really want to have range with my characters. I want to play a character. I don't want to play myself. I want to play characters. Like I want to play people that are, different from my
Yeah.
realities type of thing.
Which
And
is
I want to
which
work
is
with
the exact opposite of, like, a
yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, for example. Like, he plays
Yeah,
himself.
one trick pony type of guy. And he's like, I
No
want to
offense, I
work
mean,
with
he's good at
like
it, but,
oh
it's
yeah, the reason he's keeps playing himself is that it
yeah,
works.
yeah.
And like Barry Keane is like, I want to work with people with a vision, people who go against the grain, that type of thing. So I feel like with the probably this was purposeful because any publicity is good publicity from the person who did this interview and wrote this. They probably just like threw that in there so you can get all the comic book nerds being just like automatically jumping the gun with this, no pun intended, and
That's
just
exactly what happened.
really just going, oh, yep, confirming Joker. Oh my god, he's confirmed, he's confirmed. All it is was just the interviewer just kind of going in half cocked and saying, oh, you're in this, and then Barry Keoghan obviously dodging the question because one, he either doesn't know, two, it's a secret because obviously in this day and age you got to keep everything as much as you can wrapped up so that you're not, you know,
Yeah,
like spoiling half the movie at this point.
I mean,
So
it's part of it is contractual, right? Like, you just got
yeah, and
NDAs
probably like
to worry about.
NDAs, contracts, all that. So, he probably can't even if he wanted to. So either he doesn't know, he can't, or he didn't he was just answering the question because
Yeah,
technically the thing about Batman, it wasn't even part of the question. It was just the guy saying, "Oh yeah, this is your future, maybe potentially," but he
yeah.
just answers the question with what the interviewer was actually asking. So I feel like the info got misconstrued like it always is. Like I remember somebody
Oh,
posted
absolutely.
posts like, people post dumb stuff all the time. Like I remember it looked official too. I was going through my feed and people were like, "Oh yeah, Henry Cavill is going to play Doctor Doom in the new Fantastic Four." And it's like, and I looked high and low, nothing. So it's like you got to look. I think in this day and age, you just got to really double check, go back to the source, which I know a lot of people don't want to do. They just want to be really happy because a lot of people like the Joker, a lot of people like this actor, a lot of people were really impressed with this deleted scene, as well as his little tidbit at the end of the film. So they want to, believe that he is in the sequel, right? So if he is, depending on what his role would be, I wouldn't totally mind it because here's the thing. We've gotten so much Joker at this point. I know everybody was rolling their eyes when Nicholas Hoult got cast as Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy because like we're getting another movie with Lex Luthor. We're sick of this. We don't want to see this. Superman has a very underrated rogue gallery.
He
So it's like
does, but
get
yeah,
somebody else at this point. Just don't get Lex Luthor or Generals like
but
Brainiac. I know Brainiac is overused in the video games, but we
yeah.
haven't seen him on the big screen. That should be a crime at this point. Get Brainiac in there. So
However,
it's
I
like
will say this though, right? Like, they have the engineer. I'm not sure if you were going in that direction, but, like, I'm saying, like, there's James Gunn hasn't said that Lex
oh
Luthor is
yeah,
the villain of the movie.
who knows
He's
who the actual villain is
right.
going to be? It might be him. It might be not. Who knows? It might be Maxwell Lord. Who the hell knows? I don't think he's going to go in that direction, but who knows? It could be like totally someone secretive, and it's like actually like it's really composite Superman. That's who the villain's going to
Mhm.
be, which would
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
that's what, and then on the same side you have Joker in Batman. So you have like the Joker, we've seen so many. We have Fully Due coming out this year. We have a Joker. We have a Joker played by another phenomenal actor on screen right now, Joaquin Phoenix. The man, I mean, he got an Oscar for a reason. So it fully deserved. The movie was great. And yeah, and it just, we have this guy and we have like we've gotten Heath Ledger, who's also a legend. We got Jack Nicholson, who's a legend. Mark Hamill. Like we've gotten so many great iterations of this character. And don't get me wrong, Barry Keoghan could be that, but I just don't think he should be the main villain. I think what like it showed in the deleted scene, what it should be is he should be the Hannibal Lecter to Bruce's Jodie Foster, Clarice. That's what their relationship should be. I feel like because then you can scratch the itch of like, okay, people want to see the Joker. However, it's more than just like we have another movie with the Joker as the villain. Because Barry Keoghan's, as I said, Barry Keoghan's very talented. His version of Joker is certainly a different take and certainly could be very
Yeah.
interesting. So I think if like I know the article doesn't mention this at all, just the interviewer, just saying it and then everyone going crazy about it. But if he was cast in Batman Part 2, I think Matt Reeves is aware enough that people would be sick of seeing the Joker that the most we'll get is a cameo. We'll just see him in Arkham Asylum doing whatever, and then or having be that like Hannibal Lecter type role of just like giving advice about serial killers to Batman. I just think that that would be a really cool sort of thing. And then end up just not even using him at all. Like I know Reeves is like planning his trilogy, as everyone does. They like to plan trilogies. That's the new thing now.
Or at least I think, I'll be honest with you, I think their ambition might be more than just a trilogy because when you
Maybe.
think about everything he's working on, obviously he's even working on something for the DCU, but beyond just the Arkham show for the DCU, there's still apparently the GCPD show somewhere in the mix. You have the Penguin show coming out later this year. And which is another thing where I'm like, well, if they're building up the Penguin, is the Penguin still going to continue to just exist in the Gotham, universe of the Batman, or are they gonna make him the primary antagonist of the Batman Part Two? So, and that also obviously would be like, well, then what do you do with the Joker? So, yeah, I mean, and I think that when you look at what they're plotting, especially how young they're starting out this version of Batman, and considering what we have seen with like the most recent, Ben Affleck's iteration, and even Michael Keaton coming back, I think they're looking at it as maybe similar to what Tom Holland Spider-Man, where they're saying, "Hey, let's do a trilogy, let's do a lot of these spin-offs and kind of like let's really build the foundation, and then maybe if things are going well enough and we can continue and build off of that, then maybe let's do another trilogy after possibly." And I know that obviously now that they have the Bat family that's going to be introduced in the DCU, and then also like you said, the Joker in his own franchise with Joaquin Phoenix, it's kind of similar to the Spider-Man situation where they want to differentiate between the two. They don't want to compete against themselves. In the Spider-Man's case is Sony along with Marvel, and then here you got Warner Brothers as DC Studios. So I definitely think that yeah, that's gonna be something to consider, and that's probably one of the reasons why I think I agree with you. They're gonna want to keep Barry Keegan's Joker, and maybe more so kind of like the one who's a bit more in the background, maybe even pulling the strings, and you don't want to like waste that little Joker card. Not sorry for the uh, pun or whatever, but like you don't want to do your Joker Batman movie this early because unlike with Christopher Nolan or with Tim Burton, like they used their Joker up pretty soon, and then like the second movie was great in terms of Batman Returns, and then also of course with the Dark Knight was probably the greatest Batman movie of all time, still to this day. And it seems like a rite of passage for directors to make a Batman movie where you have the Joker, the biggest, most one of the, if not the most popular superhero of all time, and probably the most popular villain of all time.
Mhm.
But I agree with you that maybe it's too early to blow their load on this one. Let's save the Joker movie a little bit, especially because like what we've got going on now. It's like we have how many iterations of Joker have you have had in recent times? Like it's obviously we have the Heath go. Let's not well. I guess we can count even Jack Nicholson's Joker because people are still who went to see that in the movie theater are still going to watch movies today. So that's still in the psyches, but, like, if you count
Yeah.
him, like, I mean, how many have you had? Like, in just the movies alone, not to mention the TV shows. It's
Doot, doot, uh, doot, doot. We've gotten 5 live action Jokers. We've gotten Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, uh, Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, and and now Joaquin Phoenix, not including Barry Keoghan. So we have 5 without him, 6 with him. So, but like in
But what
terms
ab
of,
but also Gotham, the TV show. That was
oh yeah, I forgot.
they had a Joker in.
I watched like 2 episodes and I'm like, this is not for me.
Right,
Uh,
well, no, totally fair, but they did it,
but
I mean,
I've
that
heard Cameron Monaghan did a very good job. So
yeah.
like, that's, I mean, from what like little I've seen him, I mean, the man is a very good actor, and um his Joker, I saw a little bit and I'm like, oh, that seems cool. I mean, I'm not gonna watch the show because I've heard most of that show is terrible. So I'm like, not deal with that. But like, yeah, we've got Cameron Monaghan, and then not including, Mark Hamill, who's probably considered the best version of the Joker ever. So you have that as well. Jared Leto is kind of weird because he was never the main villain of
Yeah,
a
I
movie. Like, he
and
was in
it's
Suicide
yeah,
Squad, he was in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but that was it.
yeah.
So,
I don't think they got that far. Well, I don't even know if that's because
mm,
because similar to the Batman, I don't know if Zack Snyder ever intended to make him, like, the main villain of a Batman movie. Because of course they were gonna do Deathstroke, and
yeah,
I mean, I guess if that worked out, then I don't know, maybe there would have been an eventual face-off, but at that point, you might have had some members of the Bat family involved, because obviously we had, had one dead Robin, but maybe there'd be more to it, especially considering that Batman was older, kinda like what we're gonna get in the DCU, which there are some similarities there in terms of the DCU and DCEU Batman. But anyway, um, one thing I do want to kind of can I sorry, this might be a bit of a sidetrack, but if you look at this version of the Joker, like you look at that, it just I mean, we got like a ton of tight shots, and then we got a lot of stuff that was out of focus. This really dirtying up the frame, is what they were doing a whole lot of, as the cinematography term goes,
mhm,
and they were purposefully obscuring a lot of the scarring of this Joker. And when you got a glimpse of some of the scars, and the teeth and everything, like it, and like it's the most visceral looking
yeah.
Joker,
I
but
think Matt Reeves did confirm that this version of the Joker, it was a birth defect, and, like, kinda it does kind of follow a little bit of the Joaquin Phoenix one, although the birth defect is his, like, need to laugh, like, having that.
yeah.
I forget what the disease is called,
You
but,
see this well, right, so no, I wouldn't call it, maybe not a birth defect, but, like, it's more of a is a some kind of a it's a condition, like he's,
yeah, it's a
yeah,
I believe it's a genetic condition.
yeah,
Uh, Again, I forget what the condition is
yeah,
called. People in the comments will correct me, and please do, I forget.
yeah,
But yeah, so it does kind of follow in that vein a little bit, although the defect or the condition in this case would be physically rather than, just laughing. It
yeah.
would be his face and his hair, and I think I kind of like that. I know a lot of people would be pissed because they're like, he doesn't fall into acid. What's the point? I mean, like
Well, they did that in the
with how
Suicide
they're doing
Squad.
it. I mean, with what they're doing, it's
Yeah,
it's it's fine. Like, I like that. Like, because it kind of reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if you are aware of this, but the Telltale version of the Joker, where he doesn't have like the red lips or like the dark like eyes, but he just has like kind of very very dark green hair. Like, it's not like, it's not like Jared Leto's where it's like this Kelly green color, where it looks almost brown, and then he has like very, like almost like albino like white skin. um and so it's like that. I think they mentioned there that it was a birth defect. And so I kind of like with how they did that. I'd like to, as long as you like, yeah, as long as you like do something like interesting with it, like as long as you make it like something that works with that character. I feel that could work. I feel you can. I even though I didn't love the Batman as much as a lot of other people did, I feel as long as Matt Reeves makes the story a little bit tighter here. My man, you don't need to make it 3 hours. You did not need to make the Batman 3 hours long. And, so and just don't make the Joker the main villain. make it that Hannibal Lecter type. I think he would be good in small doses. I think that's like the bare thing. Like he would be good in small doses. It's an intriguing look. It's an interesting way to take the character, and I feel like you need to like do like sort of like the combination of everything, like a golden age, silver age, bronze slash modern
Yeah.
age iteration, like sort of like the master criminal, the clown, but also doing the psychopath, like getting all three versions into one. And I think that could, make it, but like doing your own take on it. I think that could really be the
Yeah.
best possible course of action.
Yeah, I mean, like, and here's one critique that I have for the 5 minutes that we have seen this Joker so far, and and again, we have seen a lot of it as sort of a silhouette. The view is obstructed. You're not really, you're meant to not be able to kind of see all of the features of this Joker, and the silhouette kind of makes me feel like what we're getting here is all it's the closest thing to like a fan film version of a Joker. Like, like I've seen a number of Batman fan films over the years, and
Hmm.
because the theatrical version of Joker is like have I mean, because this one, it just I mean, the green hair, it felt maybe a little cheap in some ways, although, like, again, when they got, like, up close on this guy, like, yeah, I'm not saying that I mean, they did a lot of work for what was a 5-minute scene that got cut from the movie. But I personally, this as my opinion was that I don't know how easily I would buy the look of this Joker, just going off the look because we haven't really seen how he plays off Batman for more than 5 minutes, and the scene that we got that was cut from the movie, I think the reason they cut it is because it's very similar to the scene where, Batman goes into Arkham and talks to the Riddler. It's kinda the same thing, really, except, like,
Yeah,
he's going for more information and gets angry and stuff, and they probably felt like it wasn't worth introduce I and you know what? To be honest with you, I bet you they shot more than one scene. There's no way they just cast him for one single scene, right? I mean, you could, but, like, I don't think that would be the case. Like, it just from a screenwriting standpoint,
that's yeah. That's
there
where I
was
think,
yeah,
yeah, the idea that he's gonna come back, but in a smaller role, that definitely has
yeah,
those bells ringing because he's just even at the time, 2022, I think when did Banshees of Inisherin come out? I think it came out that year.
you might yeah, I think
Or
so. Yeah, yeah,
so and he was also in Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I heard nothing but great things about. He was in a lot of like really good, like mostly indie stuff, but he got praised a lot. So
yeah.
clearly they knew like this guy was gonna be something. And you know, I feel like they cast a name, not the biggest name ever, but a
Yeah.
name for a
I
reason.
mean, he
So
was
they're
in
gonna,
Eternals, like, he's a yeah, he has a rising star. Yeah.
yeah. So
He's
I
gonna
think
make and yeah,
they did cast him for a reason.
absolutely, and like you said, like, right now we've got almost like Joker overload, but, like, then again, you could say the same thing about the Batman. There was I mean, people have been saying, like, "Alright, so, why is it I've heard things like, "Why do we worry about, oh, they're rebooting the Superman again, whereas, this is the 3rd or 4th version of Batman that we're gonna be getting with the DCU Batman in just 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
if you count Michael Keaton coming back, Ben Affleck, in The Flash in his last appearance as the Batman, there's 2 right there. Christian Bale is still not that far in the past, but even if you skip him, you still also then have to worry about, like, the Batman they introduced towards the end of Gotham and the TV show, and the Robert Pattinson Batman. This would be the 5th. The DCU Batman would be, like, the 5th live action Batman that we would see in about as many years. So, people are on the other hand like, "Oh, why are we rebooting Superman again?" And I think people there
Meanwhile, we haven't gotten a Superman film in
in
over 10 years
10 years,
at
right, which is
when Superman Legacy will be coming out. So we in 12
yeah,
years, that's
which is fair. But the point I was trying to
yeah,
make is, like, the Joker is kinda more in line with the Batman, like, as a character than
right.
Superman, like, where I don't think people were gonna get tired of seeing more Joker, but at the same time, given that it's kind of like we're gonna talk about this soon, where we're gonna talk about the whole Superman Lois ending allegedly because Superman Legacy. We don't know what the future of the Joker Joaquin Phoenix franchise is, but I have a feeling they don't want to necessarily have two versions of Joker because even Jared Leto's Joker, like you said, didn't have whole lot to do in the DCEU. By the time Joaquin Phoenix's Joker blew up into a phenomenon, absolute cultural phenomenon, and now we've got a second movie coming out, which is, they spent literally twice as much money, and Warner Brothers spent more than twice as much of what they spent on the first one because they split the financing with the outside a company, and this time around they're going, just all in because they want to they want to pull in all the profits to themselves. So they're committed to that version of the Joker, kind of like, they're committed to Superman Legacy with David Cornsweet. So I wouldn't blame them for saying, let's minimize this character, especially because the Batman has so many other villains in the rogue gallery that could be utilized. And especially like we did this recently. We were talking about like what villains could they have in the Batman Part Two, and there's
Yeah.
so many that we have not ever seen in live action anything from in any Batman movie or TV show. So yeah, but just to kind of summarize a little bit in terms of the story and everything, I think Barry Keoghan, like I'll go back to the article for a second, right? So because I do
Yeah.
anybody who tuned in late, let's just make sure this is on the right, the Vanity Fair article where he was asked, and even the question in its entirety wasn't even purely about Joker in the
Yeah.
Batman 2.
They
It,
just
it's
mentioned it.
it mentioned it. It's like saying, "Oh, you're also playing Joker." It's almost like, the bend over backwards to try to maybe trip him and get some because the good journalists that's their job, and they will try to always towards the end of the interview they get to ask one question that's kind of their, they could do anything, ask anything with that question, and usually they'll try to ask you a question that's about another high profile project that you either have coming up or have had worked on recently, and um, they see if they can pull out some unexpected piece of information, and this is what they did. And like you said earlier, John, Barry is very good at just completely
Yeah.
dodging the question. He
Like
doesn't.
that he's
Yeah,
he's made a step into the Hollywood world, not a full step, but a step enough to know to bob and weave these BS like mentions and questions and all that. So props to him. Like I'll give him that. Like I'm excited what he has to offer, but especially like just like bobbing and weaving journalists, clickbait stuff. So
yeah.
I'll definitely give him that. I'll definitely give him that.
I mean, and to think that again, you're looking at it on the right. If you're listening to this, then I'll, read you the question. The question itself was looking ahead. You've got the miniseries Masters of the Air, which is on Apple TV Plus, and you're also playing the Joker in DC's The Batman 2. This is the journalist asking this or saying it. What do you want your career to look like going forward? So they almost implied like not and the rest of it. You can read this article and just Google Vanity Fair, Barry Keoghan. This will be the first thing that comes up. They don't bring up the Joker. He doesn't bring up the Joker at any other point. So it's not like Barry Keoghan mentioned, "Oh yes, I'm going to be playing the Joker again in Batman 2 coming up." And then the journalist was like, "Okay, so you're going to be doing that. So what are you looking forward to in your career?" No, they sort of just. It was almost like it was literally a question that was meant to kind of like get something out of Barry, and he completely sidestepped it. And if you look at his response, like John, you said, there's literally nothing in there that is even close to being a mention. If anything, what he says is he kind of says, "All right, well, I like playing these out of the box characters," and that, like his approach to what he wants to do moving forward. And I suppose what he says there, the Joker character fits in that description, and so connecting these dots and playing the wildest game of telephone that the internet is known for, we started getting headlines, or we have been getting headlines of Barry Keoghan confirmed for DC's The Batman 2, because they probably took that line, the question, which is not even a question, it's a statement before the actual question, where the journalist states
Right.
that, like, and again, nothing is endorsed by Barry Keoghan, Warner Brothers, or even Matt Reeves. I mean, to be quite frank, at this point, I don't think Matt Reeves knows who and what is going to be in the Batman Part Two, because we have no
Yeah.
idea where that script is.
I think
So
it's also a look a bit of like kind of just wrapping it up. I think a look it just almost maybe even a bit of desperation of like some information because we've gotten nothing how little we've gotten for a movie that's supposed to be out only about 3 months after Superman Legacy. We've gotten so much information about Superman
Yeah,
Legacy, casting, James Gunn on Threads, all this shit, like so much of this movie. I mean, to be fair, it is probably a bigger movie because we're rebooting another DC cinematic universe, so there's a lot riding on this to be successful. But the Batman 2 was a huge hit, critical, box office wise, both, and it's a sequel, and a lot of people love Batman. So the fact that we've gotten pretty much nothing from almost nobody is amazing, almost like it's weirdly amazing. And so I think maybe the journalist was kind of hoping that, like, just to get like the smallest nugget of information about this movie that we've heard nothing
yeah,
about. So,
yeah,
you know,
which is fair. And like I said, like
is Matt Reeves even coming back? Who knows?
I mean,
It's just
yeah. You know what? I
kidding
wouldn't be surprised to see if he decides not to direct the second movie. Although, I mean, I don't think he's gonna want to like step away from the director's chair this early in this franchise. Nonetheless, we like you said, there's been zero updates, almost zero updates. And when you compare that to other movies with a similar timeline, Superman Legacy's starting to, go through their table reads, and really they've already been doing costume fittings, and I'm sure the sets have already been built. They're gonna start filming in literally a week or two's time. Like they're going
Yeah,
into production soon.
James Gunn
And
posted something on Threads. He
yeah,
was
with
on set with Freddie Stroma and Jennifer Holland,
yep,
and because I think probably starting Peacemaker soon. Even he said in the post, he's like, "They're not in the movie. Calm down. I'm just
yes,
posting
yeah,
a picture with them."
yes,
And
yes,
he's like, "Hey, we're starting filming. They're not in the movie. Calm down." Because even he knows it's like the mental hoops
yeah.
that people are gonna go in. So,
Yeah,
you
Superman
know,
times Peacemaker. That's already now they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get a cameo. This is how it's gonna connect." And
yeah. Although it
although
does
I
confirm that Freddie Stroma is
exactly
gonna be in
is gonna be
Peacemaker
back.
because he did confirm that Holland, uh, Harcourt, Economos, and
Yes.
Adebayo are going to be in season 2, but we didn't hear anything about Stroma, so it seems like Freddie Stroma from this is gonna be in
I
it,
mean,
but
he's in the
we'll see.
picture. I mean, like at this point, if you're taking that question and saying Barry Keegan is confirmed as the Joker, then this picture is, picture is worth 1,000 words. You might as well, put it in black ink and call it a day, because he's gonna be in anyway. But it's good to see that, of course, Superman Legacy is pretty much in production at this point. As if it's not, if maybe they've not gone to day one of shooting yet, but they're getting there, and they're
Yeah,
only days away at this point from starting. And we also saw the Fantastic Four announcement, and they're going to go into production. I think what originally was meant to be April, it might get. I think it might have been delayed a little bit, but that
mhm,
movie's set to come out in like July of next year. So
yeah,
only 2 weeks after Superman Legacy, and they're going to go into production soon as well. So yeah, I mean, movies that are. I mean, these are both superhero movies that will have a lot of VFX shots involved. There's a lot of big action set pieces. You have costumes and everything. So there's a lot of things in there that will take time to work on, especially the VFX side of things. So considering that, yes, the Batman, while it was a lot of practical elements, I can definitely tell you, like, that movie has a shit ton of, like, VFX. Like, it does. I
mhm,
mean, yeah, like, you see the Batcave and everything, and a lot of it is practical, but, like, for example, the anytime he puts on that, like, little lens, thingy on and to kind of spy and take pictures. That is a lot of that is VFX related. A lot of the big action set pieces and the big environments that they are in, they're shooting a part of it and then they're extending the set digitally. I think when he's that building that he keeps going to that's under construction and that overlooks the entire skyline of Gotham, we saw in post production they shot that in like this volume like environment, and they weren't actually physically out anywhere or in front of a green screen. They had these LED screens that they were shooting in camera. But also ultimately what I'm trying to get at is this movie, the Batman Part 2, is going to, need as much time as it can in production and post production. So if movies that are meant to come out in July are going into production right about now, then a movie that's set for October, we should be hearing that is going into production at least hopefully in the next couple of months. How much longer can they wait? Not to mention that we have seen casting announcements and other updates, costume fittings, table reads, and all kinds of other stuff for these other two movies. I mean, where is all that stuff for the Batman Part Two? So yeah, I mean, we'll get into this, I'm sure, in much more detail as other news goes around. But John, I think you and I would agree that this story that is blown up on the internet is really, I mean, it should be a non-story, although like Barry Keoghan does answer the question, but he doesn't really answer it with saying anything relating to the character. So even if he is in the movie, we have no new information confirming his participation in the Batman 2. Although I'm sure now that the internet has made such a big deal out of it, maybe it gets somebody like Matt Reeves to address the situation in the days to come. And if that happens, then we'll come back here and we'll have to talk about that. But yeah, John, what are your thoughts? Do you think the Batman Part Two is gonna still come out in October 2025? I mean, are they just playing their cards close to their chest at this point?
Because the
That's
reason sorry, the reason I wasn't talking, I was listening, but because I wanted to look up the filming dates of the
yeah,
Batman. And so I'm looking at the Wikipedia and it says the principal photography began in January of 2020 in London and wrapped in March of 2021. However, there was this magical thing called COVID that happened during
yeah.
2020. So, of course, lots of delays. So, obviously, more than a year. What? We have to factor in COVID as well. So, I would say, in terms of shakiness, in terms of, you know, how long it would take to film and all that. So, I would say, like, and then it came out in March of 2022. That's almost a year after. So
Yeah.
if we're trying to like create a timeline here, so it's supposed to come out in October of 2025. That gives it a year of post production. So that would be October of 2024. So that would mean from right now, we would have about 8 months of production, although soon to be
Yeah. I
7.
mean, and most movies of this
So
scale need maybe 3 to 4 months. A really long might be 5 months to shoot. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So with the way the timeline is, again, factoring in COVID and all of that, as well as the fact we
Well,
haven't gotten a confirmation that Reeves is even done
yeah.
with the script yet. So
Yes.
we might not even they might not even be in like proper pre-production at this point. So
There's also the thing that, there's still a VFX pipeline delay or, like, just overload from the strikes, because work kinda
that too.
stopped. I mean, it's not a purely a VFX pipeline thing, but there's a lot of other, like, deal making, like, new movies getting pushed into production and other stuff like that. Writers not being able to, like, so that might have been, did Matthews do any work on that script for, like, the 4 or 5 months that the strikes were happening? So that must have also pushed things back. So yeah, I mean, have they completely gone back on track or not? That's part of the question too.
Mhm.
So, I mean, all around, I would say, yeah. If here's my guess, if they were to go into production on this by early summer, late spring, then I think I think they have more than enough time to get it out there,
Right.
with the original October 2025 a release date. But like, what are your thoughts? Do you think that's, I mean, like, we're talking April, May, June, maybe even like when they go into
I
production, but like,
think
you know,
I think the latest they would have, I think, would be, I think, maybe midsummer. I think, like, maybe, like, July at the latest, and even that's being kinda kind. So, I think they gotta really, they're like, "Hey, Matt Reeves, we get it. You want creative control, you wanna have a vision," but it's also like, "We promised this release date thing. When are we gonna get this script? Like, hello?" Um, so and I know that, and props to James Gunn, he's like, "Yeah, I don't wanna," that's, like, good on him for, because he's like, release dates are, the this almost terrible thing because it's like now we're like fast tracking,
Yeah,
visions, and
yeah.
when we should be getting a screenplay first and then figure out a release date. So I think at this point, I think they should probably just delay it until 2026 because it just seems like, well, it would be awesome to see a Batman and a Superman movie come out the same year. I think they should just delay it at this point because clearly Matt Reeves isn't done with the script, isn't done with, whatever he needs to do, and they need to start production soon. And I feel like it's just too much to do, and
It's
or
right.
it's entirely possible they might like, I don't know. It's just very weird in terms of this situation.
The other thing is also Matt Reeves is not just working on this, right? There's not only just the fact that he's working on the Penguin show, which is he's an executive producer. He's not the showrunner. He's one of the executive producers, so he's not there necessarily on a day to day, but he's probably overseeing that project in some capacity. Then he's also involved with the other two Batman related shows. One is for the DCU with the Arkham focused characters, and the other one is potentially a GCPD show, which that may or may not be actually a real thing, but apparently it could be. And then he's involved in that Batman Noir animated series where he's an executive producer. So he's got so much Batman on his plate. I feel like if he if maybe that's part of the reason, like you said. So yeah, but I mean, hey, look, hopefully Barry Keoghan will come back as the Joker because I think a lot of people did like his iteration, but perhaps not as the main villain of the Batman Part Two, and that's certainly not confirmed. Not by that interview that he did. He didn't even answer the question when he was kind of almost like cornered into potentially revealing any information that he does have, which Matt Reeves might not know if Joker is going to be part of the Batman Part Two.
Exactly.
So yeah, guys, let us know in the comments what you think about this. Of course, I'm sure you've come across this on the internet today, and or in depending on when you're watching this in recent days. So, and if something new comes out about this, that's something that's a little bit more credible, something that's a bit more direct, maybe from Matt Reeves himself, then we'll come back and address this then. But until then, it's we'll have to kind of keep it to that. Like we're all hoping for updates on this project. If you want to check back here for more updates about the Batman Part 2, then you can, hit the like button, subscribe, come back here. We are here each and every day, Monday through Friday. And, anytime there's breaking news, we cover that as well. Of course, John, it's been great talking to you. I'm sure we'll be covering this subject in the near and hopefully
Probably.
even the distant future, depending on how long the characters stick around and Matt Reeves sticks around for the Batman. So until then, guys, go out there, watch something DC related, come back to us, talk about it, and we'd love to talk to you about it. And we'll see you next time on DC Daily.